Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. I was halfway through carving the turkey when my dad grunted, leaned back in his chair, and said, "Still playing with cars, huh?" The knife paused mid-slice. Nobody looked up. The only sound was the scraping of Emma's fork against her plate. My name's Rachel. I'm 33 years old, born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. I work as a mechanic for a NASCAR team down in North Carolina. And every Thanksgiving, I come home just to be reminded that none of it means a damn thing here. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? Yeah, still working for the team, I said, keeping my tone flat. Daytona's coming up. Dad chuckled, loud enough to echo off the kitchen tile. Hell of a way to spend your life. Crawling around under some man's toy. You ever think about doing something real? Across the table, my sister Emma smiled gently, like she always does when Dad talks. Her kids were lined up in matching outfits, and her husband Tyler sat quiet as ever. Mom was refilling the sweet tea like this was just any normal dinner. Some of us don't need oil under our nails to feel important, Emma added, still smiling. But I guess that's your thing. I kept chewing. Didn't say a word. Dad leaned forward, elbows on the table, the way he used to in uniform. When you gonna grow out of it, Rach? Start a family. Do something worth a damn. Or is that garage your baby now? I wiped my hands on a napkin and reached for the gravy. I'm good, thanks. My cousin Jeremy snorted. Guess she married a torque wrench. That got a few laughs. Even Tyler smirked. I stood up to grab another beer from the fridge, mostly just to move. My stomach was tight, but my face stayed calm. I'd trained for this. Engine fires, pit mistakes, blown deadlines. This was just another noise to tune out. I'm heading out early, I said as I came back through. Got a long drive tomorrow. Mom walked me to the door. She handed me a tin of leftover pie and kissed my cheek like she hadn't just let the whole circus happen in her house. Don't mind him, she whispered. He doesn't mean it. But he did. He always did. The sky was dark by the time I hit the road. Country stations buzzed in and out as I crossed the county line. All I could hear, looping over and over in my head, was the way he'd said it. Like my whole career was a joke, still playing with cars. I gripped the wheel tighter and didn't look back. By the time I pulled into the shop Monday morning, the air still smelled like turkey grease and bullshit. The garage was already humming. Fluorescence overhead, compressor whining, a fresh chassis rolled into Bay 3. Jimmy saw me coming and waved me over with a clipboard. Boss wants you in the office, he said. New build, your lead. I followed the clatter of boots down the concrete hallway. Keith, our crew chief, stood at the whiteboard with half a dozen guys circled around him. Cal, Dave, Marcus, all solid, all sharp. When I walked in, Keith nodded like it was already settled. Rachel's heading the Daytona prep. New body, full tear down, start to finish. You got 6 weeks. Make it count. Nobody blinked. No wisecracks. No, but she's a girl bullshit. Just a quiet shuffle as they shifted to take notes. Keith looked at me. You ready? Always. I didn't wait for a second round of orders. I grabbed the spec sheet, threw my bag in my locker, and started making calls. Engine team was already halfway into the old block teardown, but I flagged the transmission guys and body crew, mapped out a schedule, and assigned shifts before lunch. Paint needs a full week, Cal said, glancing at the calendar. Then they'll get 4 days. We make it work. Marcus leaned back against the workbench. You're really not messing around, huh? Not when we've got Daytona on the line. I was grease-deep by 2, stripped the brake lines, labeled harnesses, flagged 2 suspect welds, and by the time the new composite panels showed up from Charlotte, I had every part cross-referenced in the log. This was my turf, my tempo. Out here, nobody cared if I had a uterus. All that mattered was the car. But even with the team in rhythm, even with the garage buzzing the way it always did before a big race, my dad's voice kept scratching at the back of my skull. Still playing with cars. Around 4, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Sorry about Thursday. He had a few drinks. He didn't mean it. I didn't respond. I knew that line by heart. Same script, different decade. Back when I landed my first shop job out in Charlotte, working 12-hour days for $12 an hour, he said, at least it'll keep you busy until you figure something real out. When we made top 10 at Talladega my second year, I called home to tell them. Mom said, "That's great, honey. Are you eating enough?" And when I got hired full-time at Ridgeline with a real salary, real gear, and a shot at Daytona. All he said was, "They let girls in the pit now?" I'd been chasing that man's approval since I could drive. Only now did I see it. He never planned to give it. "Rachel," Keith stepped in, holding a part order. "We're short on tie rods. Think you can do a cross-check?" "On it," I said, grabbing the clipboard. By 7, the crew had cleared out, and I was still under the lift, scraping mud and gunk from the undercarriage. My hands were cut, black with grease. My back ached, and still I didn't stop. Because out here, every bolt I torqued was mine. Every call, every fix, mine. I walked out of the garage as the sky went dark, wiped my hands on a rag, and tossed it in the bin. Tomorrow, we'd start welding. I was halfway through heating up leftovers when my phone rang. It was close to midnight, and the name Mom on the screen hit like a gut punch. I answered quick. "Hey, everything okay?" Her voice wavered. "I'm fine, honey. Just wanted to let you know I had a little fall. Slipped in the driveway earlier." I paused. "What kind of fall?" "Nothing serious. I just twisted my wrist a bit and bumped my face on the steps." She tried to laugh, but it came out tight and shaky. "Did you go to urgent care?" "Oh, no. Your father helped wrap it. It's already feeling better." I didn't like the way she rushed the words. I didn't like the pause before she said, "Your father." "You sound off. You sure you're all right?" "I'm fine, Rachel. Really. Just wanted you to hear it from me in case it looks worse than it is. I'm okay. Go get some sleep." But I wasn't about to let it go. "I'll be there by morning." She started to protest. "Rachel, I'm already grabbing my keys." I hit I-77 with a full tank and no music. Just the hum of tires and a growing weight in my chest. Daytona could wait. A chassis was just metal. My mom was flesh and blood. The roads were empty except for the occasional trucker and a stretch of deer blinking dumb into the high beams. Every few exits, I almost turned back. Told myself I was overreacting, but her voice, I couldn't shake the tremble. I pulled into their driveway just after 5. Dawn was barely stretching over the rooftops. I killed the engine and climbed the steps slow. She opened the door before I knocked. "Rachel," she whispered, like she was surprised I'd actually come. Her left cheek was purpled, swollen under the eye. A bandage wrapped her right wrist, not clean and neat like from a clinic. Clumsy, uneven. "Jesus, Mom." "It looks worse than it is," she said quickly. "Just a little slip." "On what?" "Ice?" She hesitated. "Rain." It hadn't rained in Dayton in over a week. I knew that without checking. I stepped inside, glanced around. Nothing looked broken, no furniture shifted, but there was something off. That tension in the air, like the house was holding its breath. "Where's Dad?" "Sleeping," she said, a little too fast. I kept my voice level. "You fall, hit your face, wrap your own wrist, and he just went to bed?" She pulled her robe tighter. "He helped me clean up. We were both tired." "You should have gone to the hospital." "It's just a sprain." I looked at her, really looked at her. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Something in my gut twisted, not just because of the bruise, but because she was more worried about covering than healing. "I'm staying," I said. "Rachel, don't argue." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She turned and shuffled to the kitchen. I followed but said nothing. Not yet. The next morning, I found her already at the stove. Pancakes. Like it was just another Sunday. Her wrist was stiff, but she moved around without complaint. I sat down, silent, watched her flip batter one-handed like she'd trained for this kind of denial. "Didn't have to cook," I said. "I like to." I didn't argue. The bruise on her cheek had darkened overnight. She hadn't even tried to cover it with makeup. Her robe sleeve slipped just enough for me to see light swelling at the elbow, too. I didn't mention it. She placed a plate in front of me and sat across the table. Neither of us spoke for a while. The only sound was her sipping coffee, the occasional creak of the old radiator behind us. Then the front door opened. Dad stepped in, wiping grease from his hands with an old shop towel, like he'd just come from the garage. "Morning," he said, way too casual. I didn't answer. He walked straight to the counter and poured himself coffee, looked at me over the rim of his mug. "Didn't know you were staying?" "Change of plans," I said. He glanced at Mom, then back at me. "She told you about her spill, huh? Clumsy feet run in the family." She gave him a faint smile. It didn't reach her eyes. I kept my eyes on him. "You wrap her wrist yourself?" "Hell yeah. You think we run to the ER for every bruise?" He chuckled. "She's fine. Ain't that right, honey?" "Right," she said, quiet. She didn't flinch at his words, but when he reached across the table to grab the syrup, Her shoulders jerked just slightly. He didn't notice, or didn't care. "I'll be at the shop," he said, grabbing his coat. "You heading back to Carolina today?" "No," I said, "sticking around a few." He narrowed his eyes for half a second, then nodded once and walked out the door. We both listened to the sound of his truck pulling out of the driveway. I gave it 10 seconds, then looked at her. "Wasn't a fall, was it?" She didn't answer, just stared at the coffee. "Mom," she blinked hard, "I don't want to talk about this." "Why not?" "Because it's not simple." Her voice cracked. I waited. Finally, she sighed. "Since he retired, it's like something snapped. He's always around, watching every dollar, complaining about bills, gets mad when I call Emma too much, doesn't like when I'm out past dark." "How long's this been happening?" She hesitated. "A while." I leaned forward. "Has he hit you before?" "No," she said too fast. "Number." "It's just, he's gotten hard to live with. Short fuse, and everything's about control now. The thermostat, what brand of milk I buy, how I fold towels. If I bring home the wrong receipt, he acts like I'm hiding something." I sat back, let it settle. "He doesn't like that you don't depend on him," I said. She looked at me then. "He sees how you left, how you make your own money, how you don't answer to anybody." Her eyes watered. "And I think it reminds him that I never did that I stayed." That was the moment it hit. My whole damn life, I thought I was just the black sheep, the one who made it harder for them to understand me. But maybe what I really did was make it harder for her to pretend everything was fine. "I'll stay through the weekend," I said. "Make sure you're okay." "You don't have to." "I know." I stood and grabbed both our plates. She didn't stop me. Behind me, I heard her whisper, "Thank you." I didn't answer. I just turned on the faucet and started washing. I didn't tell Mom where I was going, just said I needed some air and borrowed her car. Dad had left for the shop again around noon, same as always. No specific job, just out. So I followed. Didn't take much. I stayed back 4 or 5 cars, ducked behind a landscaping truck at one red light, but he never checked his mirrors once. The man still thought no one saw him. He headed out past the edge of town into a stretch of lake country, long drives, old docks, private cabins tucked off gravel roads, hunting cabins, fishing retreats, off-the-books kind of places. He turned off onto a dirt road that didn't even have a name. I eased back and killed my lights. His truck disappeared behind a line of pines, but I could still make out the tail end of a small cabin, pale green siding, half-rotted porch. There was already another car parked there, a white Lexus SUV with out-of-state plates. I parked just out of sight, got out slow, and walked partway up the trail, close enough to see through the gaps between trees. Then she stepped out. Blonde, maybe late 20s, early 30s, laughing loud as hell, a bottle of wine in one hand, swinging it like she owned the place. She wore suede designer boots and a bag that cost more than my first car. My father followed her out, smiling, relaxed, a version of himself I hadn't seen in decades. He grabbed her waist and kissed her. Not a peck, not casual, full-on mouth-to-mouth like they were teenagers. I stood still, no emotion, just instinct. I pulled my phone from my pocket and started snapping photos. The truck, the Lexus plate, the cabin number barely visible on the siding. His hand on her back, her boots, the bag, the way she laughed like nothing in the world could touch her. This wasn't a fling. This was a second life. And all while my mom's wrist healed under a dish towel and she counted coupons at Kroger. I moved back toward the car, sat in the driver's seat, and just stared through the windshield. The silence hit harder than the sight of them kissing. Because now it made sense. The pressure, the moods, the control. He wasn't just miserable. He was protecting something, hiding it, financing it. He'd built an entire fantasy out here, while Mom cut the tags off her own birthday gifts, so he wouldn't yell about what she spent. Coward. I started the engine, turned the heater on low, and made a note in my phone of the time and address. Then I drove off, one hand on the wheel, the other gripping my phone like a weapon. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed in my old childhood room, laptop open, Wi-Fi running off Mom's weak signal, digging into every business tied to my father's name. His auto body shops were listed under Mason Vehicle Solutions, LLC. He had 3 of them, one in Dayton, one over in Springfield, and another just south of Columbus. Each had the same branding, same sloppy website, same story. Small town shop, military-owned, family values. I knew what to look for. I'd tracked down more than one crooked sponsor in my day. My advantage? Most of them never expected the mechanic to be the one watching. I pulled property records, then business filings, then local vendor contract listings from the city's public website. One by one, they stacked up. Invoices billed twice. Labor hours inflated. Brake jobs listed as full replacements. For the exact same VIN, within weeks of each other. I checked purchase orders from the city's fleet maintenance division. There it was. Mason Vehicle Solutions billed over 70 grand in specialty parts last quarter. The parts were listed as custom and emergency installs, but I knew damn well the county used standard Crown Vics and Ford Explorers. I ran VINs. Some weren't even active units anymore. One had been sold off 3 years back. The deeper I went, the more tangled it got. Some checks were paid directly to an LLC I'd never heard of. Midway Auto Fulfillment. I Googled it. Shell company, no phone number. Registered to a P.O. box in Kentucky. He wasn't just cheating on my mom. He was robbing taxpayers blind. It crossed state lines. That meant federal. I stared at the screen, bile crawling up my throat. He'd been hiding money while mom reused foil and clipped coupons for bread. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a name I hadn't dialed in a while. Claire Jennings, legal counsel at Ridgeline. She'd helped us dig into vendor fraud a few seasons ago. She answered on the second ring. Rachel? Wow, everything okay? I need 10 minutes of your time, I said. Not about the team. All right, she said, serious now. Talk. I laid it out. The billing, the fake parts, the duplicate charges, the P.O. box shell. I didn't mention my father. Not yet. When I was done, she whistled. Jesus, you're sitting on felony-grade procurement fraud. State lines, I said. Exactly. You're going to want to talk to someone local before it goes to DOJ. I know a guy. State fraud investigator in Columbus. Name's Jeff Ridley. He's solid. She texted me his contact. I thanked her and hung up. I started building a file. PDF copies of contracts, screenshots of invoices, photos of the girlfriend's Lexus and cabin. I annotated everything, labeled each account, traced routing numbers, cross-checked signatures. This wasn't about payback anymore. It was about stopping the man before he took anything else. From my mom, from the town, from anyone. By sunrise, I had 3 folders labeled and sorted. Digital backups on a hard drive, password-protected copies in the cloud. Then I closed the laptop, walked into the kitchen, and poured a cup of coffee with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Time to finish this. By the time Mom came back from the store, I had the dining table cleared and the files spread out. Laptop open, photos printed, pages organized. She stepped in with 2 bags of groceries and stopped cold. What's all this? I took the bag from her hand and set it on the counter. We need to talk. She glanced down at the stack of papers, then slowly pulled off her coat. This about your father? Sit, I said. She sat. I clicked open the first folder. I've been digging into his business. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but it's all here. Fake invoices, double billing, overcharging the city on repairs that didn't happen. Her eyes flicked over the documents, lips parting, but no words came out. He created a shell company in Kentucky. He's routing money through it. Tens of thousands, maybe more. Still nothing, just a slow blink. I slid over a photo. Dad standing next to the blonde woman outside the lakeside cabin. Her boots, her expensive bag. The 2 of them holding wine glasses like they'd earned it. He's living a second life, Mom. That's where the money's going. She finally spoke. I know. I stared. You what? I knew there was someone else, she said quietly. I didn't know who or where, but I felt it. The way he changed, the things he started hiding. Why didn't you say anything? What would I say, Rachel? Her voice was flat. Who would believe me? The neighbors? Your aunt? Everyone's known him as Mr. Stability for 30 years. I leaned back. You should have told me. And then what? Drag you into my mess? Mom, it's not just about cheating. He's stealing. He's committing fraud. And he's funding this woman's lifestyle while you sit here budgeting groceries. Her face tightened. You think I haven't noticed? Then why are you still here? Because where would I go? The silence hit hard. She looked down. What happens if I leave? What do I live on? My name's not on the business accounts. I've never handled a tax return. Every dollar in this house has his name on it. You have me, I said. That's not enough. I stood, pushed the chair back. Bullshit. You raised me to be independent. You taught me how to fix things. That's what I do. I fix broken machines, bent frames, wrecked engines. This is no different. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. You don't have to be scared of what people will say. They're not the ones living with him. She pressed a hand to her temple. You don't understand, Rachel. He wasn't always like this. I remember when he came home from basic and proposed under the oak tree. I remember how proud he was when Emma was born. And I remember you covering bruises with foundation and telling us it was allergies. She flinched. I softened my voice, just barely. You're not crazy, and you're not weak. But if you let him keep doing this, then you're letting him win. She swallowed hard. If I leave, it's over. It already is, I said. Now we take back what's ours. She looked down at the table again, at the evidence, at the lies laid out in neat stacks. Her fingers trembled as she picked up one of the photos. I don't even know who I am without him. Then it's time to find out. She let the photo drop. I waited. Finally, she stood, walked into the kitchen, and poured herself a glass of water. She stared out the window for a long moment, then turned back to me. I'm ready, she said. Do what you need to do. I closed the laptop. Good, I said, because we're just getting started. I pulled into the parking lot of the main shop just before 8. I didn't go inside. I just sat there. Driver's side window cracked, engine off, heat low. The sky was gray and flat, like it knew something was coming. Then they showed up. 4 unmarked SUVs, 2 cruisers, 1 state sedan. No sirens, just doors swinging open and agents moving fast, no wasted motion. They fanned out. Some hit the back, others the front bay. One guy, clipboard in hand, was already calling names. I recognized the fraud investigator Claire had put me in touch with. Ridley, sharp suit, no smile. Workers started coming out one by one, confused, phones in hand. I saw Marcus, then Dave, then the manager Pete, pale as drywall. A minute later, my dad stepped out from the office door, coffee in hand, looking half annoyed, half pissed like someone had interrupted a nap. Ridley walked straight up, badge out. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the shift. The exact moment Dad realized it wasn't just a visit. The coffee dropped, his hands didn't even go up, just clenched at his sides like he was still deciding if he was going to swing. He didn't. They cuffed him right there, in front of his crew, beside his flagpole. I didn't feel relief, didn't feel pride, just quiet. 2 hours earlier, another team had swarmed the lakeside cabin. Claire sent me the update. The girlfriend was caught in a silk robe and full makeup. Inside, they found luxury items, unregistered bank statements, cash in bundles, and a drawer full of forged maintenance contracts tied back to the city fleet. When it rains, it floods. My phone rang as I pulled out of the lot. Emma. Rachel, she choked out. What the hell did you do? I stayed calm. The right thing. You had him arrested. In front of everyone, his name is going to be all over the paper. Good. You ruined his life. He did that himself. She started crying. I waited for her to finish. Do you know what you've done to this family? I snapped. No, Emma. Do you know what he's done? To Mom? To me? To taxpayers? You think this was easy? I just wish you'd handled it quietly. There is no quiet way to end abuse, or fraud, or betrayal. She hung up. 5 minutes later, Jake called. You couldn't just let it go, he barked. It's family. So that means he gets a free pass? He served his country. He worked his ass off. Then he should have known better than to steal from it. Jake's tone dropped. You've always been dramatic. Really? I snapped. When Mom came to the table with a bruised face and said she slipped on dry concrete? When she stopped buying anything that didn't have a coupon? That dramatic enough for you? Silence. I didn't do this to hurt anyone, I said, but I wasn't going to sit around and protect a man who stopped deserving it 20 years ago. Jake didn't say a word. Then the line went dead. I tossed the phone into the passenger seat, turned onto the highway, and hit the gas. Let them cry. Let them judge. Let them bury their heads. I was done pretending silence was safer. The courthouse smelled like bleach and old paper. Reporters waited on the front steps, pretending not to point cameras. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with small-town tension. Business owners, church ladies, even the old mayor in the back row. Everyone wanted to see how the golden boy of Mason Vehicle Solutions had fallen. Dad stood in a cheap suit, face clean-shaven, hands folded neatly. He pled not guilty. His lawyer spun it all like a crisis of the soul. Years of military service, a man under stress, retired too early, Strained marriage. Poor financial advice. He threw everything at the wall, but never touched the fraud. Just painted Dad as a man cornered by life. I watched without blinking. Mom testified first, in private chambers. Judge said she didn't need to face him in open court. She looked relieved when she walked out, but she didn't say a word. Just gave my shoulder a squeeze and took a seat. Then they called me. I walked to the stand and swore in, no hesitation. The defense attorney smiled like he was talking to a child. You don't live in Ohio, correct? Not anymore. You work in motorsports? Yes, I'm a mechanic for Ridgeline Racing. So you don't have any formal background in financial law? Nope, just common sense and basic math. A few people chuckled. The judge didn't. The lawyer leaned in. Miss Mason, you admit you've had a strained relationship with your father? I've had a strained relationship with a man who hides behind flags and family while bleeding his town dry. He tried to interrupt, but the judge let me finish. I brought evidence, I said, opening the binder. These are original billing records from his shops. Here's the same part charged to 2 vehicles, 2 weeks apart. Here's a vehicle that was scrapped in 2019. He billed it last quarter for a brake job. These are contracts signed by a fake vendor. The P.O. box it's registered to is in Kentucky. And here, I held up a photo, is the cabin he bought with stolen money. He didn't say a word. Why did you dig into all this? He asked eventually. I looked him square in the eye. Because my mother was bruised, broke, and terrified. Because I know what rot looks like under a hood, and I know when someone's hiding it. The courtroom went dead silent. The judge took 3 days to deliberate. On the 4th, Dad was sentenced to 6 years in state prison. Restitution ordered to the city of Dayton, plus full dissolution of his business assets. He didn't look at me as the cuffs went on. Just kept his head down like maybe he still thought he was the victim in all this. People were stunned. The man who fixed their cars, donated to veterans, wore church flannel every Sunday. Turns out he was just another coward behind the curtain. Outside, I ignored the cameras and walked Mom straight to the car. We didn't speak the whole drive home, but when I dropped her off, she touched my hand and whispered, "Thank you." I didn't say anything back, just watched her walk to her front door, shoulders a little straighter than before. A few months later, I helped Mom move into a 2-bedroom condo on the east side, walking distance from a community garden and the library. She kept the furniture she liked, donated the rest. No more dried-up rose china or framed Marine Corps medals on every wall. Just open windows, simple curtains, and plants on the sill she actually watered. I signed up to help with the food pantry, she said one morning, setting a tomato on the counter. And book club meets Thursdays. She'd gotten her name back, even if it still sounded strange to her ears. Emma didn't come to the move. Jake didn't return my texts. No surprise, some people would rather stay mad than admit they were wrong. I had bigger things to focus on. In January, Keith pulled me aside at the garage and said, "It's yours if you want it. Full crew chief for Ridgeline number 14, Daytona first race." I didn't hesitate. The day of the race, the infield was packed. Noise like a jet engine. I ran the pit like a surgeon, called tire changes, kept eyes on telemetry, stayed ahead of fuel by half a lap every time. We crossed the finish line first, and when I climbed down from the box, covered in grease and Gatorade, Mom was waiting by the gate, credential around her neck, smile wide. She hugged me tight, tighter than she ever had before. Then she pulled back, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "I used to think what you did wasn't real. I was wrong." It landed harder than any trophy. Not because I needed her approval, not anymore, but because she said it without fear. That kind of truth doesn't come easy after 30 years of swallowing lies. I looked out at the track. Smoke still hung in the air. Mechanics scrambled, fans screamed. My heart was pounding. Respect isn't something you earn from people who've already decided you don't deserve it. Sometimes the most important work you do isn't under a hood. It's what happens when you stop letting silence speak for you. I grabbed Mom's hand, held it tight, and walked her back toward the tunnel. We didn't owe anyone a damn thing.